Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And let's go ahead and get into today's episode, shall we? Now, on today's episode, I have this question, which is something that I saw from a quote actually on Facebook. And I was like, you know what? That's actually a good one. And the question is, what's the best project you can work on? Now, let me tell you here why the answer and why is that important, okay? The reason why that it's important because the answer is you. You are the best project you can work on. Any day, no matter how old you are, from the beginning, whenever you decide to work on yourself, you can start working on no matter how old you are. And I'll give you my example in this case. It took me 30 years, literally. That's a long time now that I'm talking about it. It took me literally like 30 years to decide to be able to start working on myself, to decide to look back into my past and say, like, you know what, this wasn't the right way that I was raised. I shouldn't have been raised that way, but it happened. Now I can change things in my mind in this case, like all the negativity, all the abuse that was said, all the abuse that was done, everything. I had to change myself, and I was able to do it. I've been able to do it for the last 3 years. I'm 33 now. I started when I was 30 when my wife got sick. Now I'm 33 and I see an improvement, and that's why this question is very important. When I saw it, I was like, you know what? It is true. It's you. You are the best project you can work on. And a lot of people, especially with spoonies and anybody, when you're dealing with stress or anything like that, you don't feel like it. You don't feel like you can handle it. You don't feel like you can actually get through the day because of the pain, because of the doctors not paying attention, the doctors not treating you right. You feel like there's no help, pretty much. And sometimes, I mean, not everybody, but this is one of the things that happened to me as I was growing up until I actually met my wife. I felt like if I wasn't gonna get any help from anybody, then what's the point of me working on myself? Like, what's the point of me trying to improve if nobody's gonna be able to help me, or nobody wants to help me? Then what's the point? But then when I started going to therapy, I realized, like, you know what? There's a point to this. It's not just like, oh, will have to help you. You cannot force somebody to help you. That's the thing. You cannot force them to help you. They will willingly be able to help you, or they will willingly be offering their help once they see you working on yourself first. Because now that I've been working on myself a lot, like, for me, every day is a new lesson, literally, about myself, about the things that I see, about how I interpret things and things like that. So I decided to start working on that by myself, and my wife always, like, gives me, like, her perspective of how I'm doing. Like, she's almost like, I would say, like, part of my teacher. I would say, like, my teacher as well, because she has helped me, like, with pronunciation, with writing, and being able to read and things like that. So I think that she has helped me, and that's why I say, like, the best project that I can work on right now, it's myself. And I will, and that's something that never stops. You can never stop learning, you can never stop growing. And a lot of times happens where somebody must have said something to you, like in many of my cases, and you have heard some of my stories, where things were said, things were done, and you felt a certain way about yourself, like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna learn. Like, I know that sometimes teachers will make fun of you because you might be a slow learner. And guess what? The same thing happened with Einstein. Einstein wasn't like so smart at the beginning. At 4 years old, I think he wasn't able to, like, speak very well. So everybody said that he was dumb, and then he turned out to be one of the smartest people in history. So the same thing I see with myself. A lot of people. I'm not comparing myself to Einstein. But I see that how a lot of people say like, oh, Jordan's dumb, he's too slow, he can do this, he's not able to do that. And now I'm doing it. Like I'm reading faster, I'm talking better, I'm being able to express myself better instead of just swearing like I used to, thanks to my mom. Because that's pretty much what I heard growing up, just swearing, swearing, swearing. And thanks to the way that I was raised, I was just projecting what I saw. And that's pretty much what happens. And even though it's hard for us to understand that the way that we were raised or what we saw growing up maybe wasn't the right way to for us to be raised, we can still change it. As an adult, you can change yourself. You can in this situation take control of your life, take control of your mind, and decide what you want to learn. Like for me, psychology and history and pretty much about how about astrology and all of that. And I've been getting deep into that, and I'm learning a lot about it. So whatever you decide to learn, just learn. It's not gonna be easy, because, and it's not because of your age, it's not because of of the subject that you want to learn. It's because of what you think about yourself. So the first thing that you have to do in order for you to work on yourself and create the best version of yourself, you have to take control of your own thoughts, which is, let me tell you, the hardest thing that you will ever do. This you can look at the research when it comes to psychology, and the way that I'm expressing in this situation is because of what I went through with therapy. When I went to therapy, and I have said this before, I wanted to quit within 6 months, but after a year and a half, I was like, you know what, I'm ready to move on. Even the therapist says, like, you're doing so much better. My wife says it, that you're doing so much better, because now I'm able to understand myself, like what triggers me, what makes me angry, what makes me that, or what makes me feel a certain way. And when I have like negative thoughts, I question them. And that's one of the things that and that's one of the things that a lot of people have difficult time with, questioning ourselves. But we believe that, or at least in my mind, I believe that because I was saying it to myself, it must be true. You know, like, oh, you're dumb, you can never learn, you nobody's gonna love you, whatever. I always thought that was true because that was what somebody said to me, and then I kept repeating it. So if the same thing has happened to you, or you feel a certain way about yourself, you have to understand, where is that coming from? Who said that to you? Who made you feel like that? That's how you start working on yourself. That's how you start taking control of your life in this situation. Because once you control your thoughts, whenever you have a negative thought and you keep questioning as to, why do I feel like that? How come I feel like that? How come this keeps happening every time somebody does this, a certain thing, says something, I feel angry or something like that, you know? Like you're gonna have those type of situations. And probably, especially with the environment right now, with everything that's going on, you might feel angry about what somebody said on Twitter. You might feel angry about something that somebody said on Facebook, and because of the way that it makes you feel. So in order for us to be able to become the best version of ourselves, we have to understand why words trigger us, why certain things that other people say make us feel a certain way, and it's hard. But once you start doing that, then you can move on to the next step. Like, okay, like in my case, let me tell you this. I have always talked about it because I'm calling myself out, which is true. I can't stop eating candy. And it's hard. It's hard. I'm a stress eater. I'm under a lot of stress. Well, not a lot of stress, but it's stressful to take care of a Spoonie. I'm not gonna lie, it is stressful, but I deal with it by eating. I deal with it by eating, and it's not good for me, because I noticed this the other day when I ate a lot of Reese's. I ate a lot of Reese's. I would say a bag of Reese's. A big bag of Reese's. The next day, my body felt so sick. So I was like, I need to stop doing that to myself. So when you start understanding little things like that, that as to what's causing you to eat too much, what's causing you to crave certain things. You might want to change what you eat. You might want to change how you react to certain types of stress, because there's different types of stress. And instead of like going to the fridge and eating candy, or in my case having Reese's, you might start doing something else, like instead of eating, what I'm trying to do now is go for a run, and or go outside, walk the dogs, and like kind of like calm myself down, figure out what's causing the feeling that I need to eat, because I know that I don't need to eat like 20 Reese's. That's the thing. I know it. It just happens to be there, okay? So in this situation, that's pretty much how you start working on yourself. And once you start figuring out things like that, you can move on to the next. But you can't move on from one thing to the next until you complete the first step. Until you complete the first level. And that's pretty much what the question for me means. I know it might mean something completely different for you, and you have to understand this, because for what I have seen right now, I mean, people like to help people, even if it's on the, if other people don't agree with you, you like to still help people that agree with you. But you can't help anybody before you help yourself. Like, this is something that I wrote down the other day. Is like, before you can help anybody, you have to work on yourself first. Because there's this quote by a philosopher from the 1700s that says, a teacher is not a good teacher unless the teacher keeps learning himself or continues to learn himself. And that's pretty much one of the quotes that stuck with me, because I'm like, that is so true. Like, the more I learn, the more I can, like, that's why I like to do research about the subjects that I talk about, because in that way, or in that sense, I'm actually learning new things. And I don't know if you're hearing this, but that's the Alexa, and I have to water my plants after I'm done with this, But anyway, let's get back into the episode. Here comes again. Hey, I always say the podcast is not gonna be perfect, okay? So anyway, we have to continuously learn about ourselves so we can help others. Because sometimes when you try to help somebody else, what happens is that you might absorb their pain. You might absorb, if you're an empath like me or like my wife, you might absorb their energy, and then you might feel bad about it. So you have to understand that sometimes by you absorbing, that's what we're trying to say, absorbing that energy or those problems yourself, you're hurting yourself. And if you have faced a similar situation, it might be a trigger. But that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. Thank you again for your time, for the new listeners, the new followers, and don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And as well, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Let's make the community grow, so anybody that's going through something doesn't feel alone. That's pretty much the main goal, and to help people as well. And if you want to share your story, don't forget to send it to me at the Caregiver and Spoonie@gmail.com, or you can post it on Facebook as well. You're more than welcome. Nobody's going to judge you. And I leave you like always. As always, take care of yourself and have a great day.